All right, so good morning. Speak Up Sunday. Let's go. So yesterday was my brother's birthday, rest in peace, and today I'm going to share his story on what happened to him and how he was brutally treated and died at Broome County Jail. So let's get this started. On January 15, 2015, a man was found unresponsive in his cell at the Broome County Jail in Binghamton, New York. This man's name was Salladin Barton, and his story is one of heartbreak and injustice. Salladin was arrested in June of 2013 on a violation of probation. He was also charged with felony counts of first-degree robbery, second-degree robbery, and fourth-degree grand larceny. Barton and another man allegedly accosted and robbed the man of his spare change. Already, Salladin's case has veered into unlawful territory. According to New York State law, grand larceny in the fourth degree is defined as any theft of property where the value of the property is greater than $1,000. In other words, the charges do not fit the crime. Salladin cannot afford to post bail, and tragically, he would see his day in court. He spent the next and final 19 months of his life in jail. During these 19 months, Salladin suffered a battery of abuses. He was subjected to emotional and physical abuse from the guards and denied basic human rights. Salladin suffered from both bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, which made him an even larger target for abuse. His life was routinely threatened, and he was told his family members would be hurt. Salladin was often called horrific names, pepper sprayed, and frequently beaten in the head and body by beat-down squads, groups of correctional officers. The beatings were so brutally they caused Salladin to bang his head against the cell bars, screaming for a reprieve. Guards starved Salladin by placing food just out of his reach and then later throwing the food away. Other inmates tried to help by giving him their good source packets, a nutritional supplement used in jail. In addition, his clothes were taken from him, leaving him naked in a cell. He was shackled and placed in solitary confinement for long periods of time. Solitary confinement has been shown to have debilitating effects on an inmate's mental health. This was especially true for Salladin. The abuses and inhumane conditions he endured further exacerbated his mental illnesses. As a result of the beatings he endured, Salladin was often in pain and pleading for medical assistance. He started having seizures, which he had never previously experienced. He suffered from blackouts, dizziness, shaking, migraines, and often had bumps, especially on his head, cuts, infections, and bleeding in his mouth. Salladin was put on suicide watch, medical observation, and then even hospitalized. Upon arrival at the hospital, he was admitted for seizures, a head injury, and hyponatremia. This condition occurs in the body when the level of sodium is abnormally low. Salladin was receiving the drug Tripitol to treat his seizures. A common side effect of Tripitol is hyponatremia. The doctors at the jail failed to recognize this, and as a result, Salladin did not receive more intensive patient monitoring prior to his Tripitol dosage being increased. Upon his release from the hospital, a thyroid ultrasound was also recommended. This was never completed. Shortly before Salladin passed away, he spoke with his attorney. Salladin has previously been in and out of the Broome County Jail for minor offenses, and in the past had only spent days or a few weeks at a time incarcerated. It was during one of these earlier incarcerations that Salladin had his hand broken when an officer slammed the cell door closed. Salladin's attorney was aware of the previous and current abuse and was working on having him transferred to a mental health facility. On January 14th, the day before he died, fellow inmates recalled Salladin being in a good mood and telling them he was going to be released and sent to a mental hospital. Tragically, this never happened. That same day, correctional officers entered his cell and beat him so badly they caused serious injury, pain, and suffering. The next day, while speaking with another inmate, Salladin abruptly stopped speaking and fell to the floor unconscious. Inmates report that Salladin was left in the state for an unreasonable period of time before he was attended to by medical personnel. When Salladin's family was notified about his death, they were told he died of a drug overdose. Jail officials claimed Salladin's girlfriend slipped him drugs, when she came to visit him. This, of course, proved to be false. In addition, 3 different toxicology reports came back inconclusive. Then the sheriff, David E. Harder, claimed Salladin died from artane intoxication. While he did have an elevated level of artane in his system, and this could be a contributing factor, the medical review board ruled this was not the cause of death. They have concluded that Salladin's clinical cause of death was lethal hyperkalemia in addition to an undiagnosed syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion. This was mostly likely caused by the prolonged prescribed use of triptyl and excessive water intake. Hyperkalemia occurs when the potassium level in your blood is higher than normal. Syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion impairs your body's ability to excrete water. His autopsy report also diagnosed Salladin with untreated pneumonia. What this means is that Salladin has had undiagnosed medical conditions that were exacerbated by the drugs prescribed by the doctors at the jail. As a result of the medical personnel's negligence, these medical conditions were left unchecked and continued to worsen, causing the death of Salladin Barton. In addition, due to the months of physical and emotional abuse and starvation he suffered, Salladin's body was weak and worn down. While Salladin's story is unique in that the abuse and neglect he endured were so extreme, unfortunately he's not the only one who had suffered in Sheriff's Hardest jail. Since 2011, there has been 7 deaths, including Salladin's. In 2011, Alvin Rios died in his jail one day after being arrested. His cause of death listed as abnormal heart rhythm stemming from a deterioration of the heart muscle as a result of a drug use. In November of 2015, vacant Dennis from Quebec reportedly committed suicide while incarcerated. There is little to no information available regarding Dennis. In September of 2016, Kevin Carroll was taken off life support by jail medical personnel. Carroll had been incarcerated since December of 2014. According to his family, he had no physical or mental illness. Somehow, he slipped into a coma and was put on life support. This past October, Kenneth Richard Grumman passed away in jail. There is virtually no information regarding the circumstances surrounding his death. Kenneth was 29 years old. Recently, Justice and Unity for the Southern Tier announced they had discovered that 2 more deaths had occurred at the jail. They obtained this information through a Freedom of Information request. Sheriff Harder has not commented on these deaths, and no additional information is available. Salladin Barton was 36 when he died. Friends and fellow inmates describe him as a good, tender-hearted man, polite, family-oriented, and a kind soul. The kind of man that would stop and chat with you and inquire as to the health and wellness of your family. A gentle person who would do whatever it took to make you smile. His life ended too soon from a tragic death that could and should have been prevented. The mental health system failed him, as did the judiciary system. Broome County Jail wants his story name to be forgotten. This cannot and must not happen. His family deserves justice and closure, as do the families of the other 4 men whose lives the jail claimed. Salladin was not the first man to die in the Broome County Jail, and unless systematic and drastic changes are made, he won't be the last. Now, since this was written 3 years ago, there's been other people that's died at the jail. And what people don't realize is this jail is small. The size of this jail is absolutely small compared to the people who are dying. So this is why I'm so adamant on just everything. I'm adamant on defunding the police, because I see the mental health. I know what happened to my brother, and I know what's going on. I'm adamant about ending racism because I'm black, and I just see what's going on, and it's just, So, this is my brother, Salladin Barton. This is his case, and if you know the Khalif Browder story, it's a lot of similarity to his story and mine. And I also want to thank the people in Binghamton, people in Broome County. There's groups that are doing amazing things that have definitely not get the recognition that they deserve. Justice Unity for the Southern Tier has just been amazing. The BU Progressive, Binghamton University Progressive, the Plot, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow has been amazing. Truth Farm has been amazing. There's groups, the Binghamton NAACP. There's just many groups that's been trying to get support and get the words and get everything out there. And I thank you guys so much, because if it wasn't for you guys, I know how hard I tried for my brother's case, and I know we probably wouldn't got to where we are. And for the people who want to know what's going on in my brother's case, actually, our family had a settlement for $170,000, which we haven't seen yet. And for what happened to him and $170,000, which the lawyer is going to get his piece. Like, it's absolutely absurd, because you could really fall and break your ankle and get that kind of money. And like, for what my brother went through, you know, like, you heard what he went through, but just imagine going through that, you know. And Salladin deserves a lot more justice. So when people say, hey, have you got justice for your brother yet, and you got your settlement, like, to me, that's not justice at all. It's not justice. And I'll be saying this until the day I die, and I'll be fighting his case, and I'll be fighting other cases. But once again, this is my Speak Up Sunday. So